Storm surge from Hurricane Katrina destroyed much of the ecosystem of lower Plaquemines Parish. Now, invasive weeds like the Chinese tallow are threatening to choke viable cattle grazing lands in the area. But as This Week in Louisiana Agriculture's A.J. Sabine tells us, local cattle producers are finding solutions that could help them save money thanks to a new USDA conservation program.
Chinese tallow trees fill what should be an empty grazing pasture on Patty Vote's cattle ranch down in Port Sulphur. Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Gustav 3 years later filled this area with saltwater, killing the soil's delicate ecosystem. Now, invasive weeds like tallow and others threaten to cover this valuable real estate. Michael Trusclair and Stuart Gardner are with the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Trusclair says with proper management, problem weeds can be controlled.
With this type of prolific grow of the Chinese tallow, you definitely almost have to apply some type of herbicide or chemically treat it.
The solution sounds simple, but not so fast. Chemical herbicides can drift for miles in the windy conditions of South Plaquemines Parish. That can be a huge problem for nearby citrus growers. Broadleaf herbicides can destroy citrus trees, potentially causing thousands of dollars in crop damage. Trusclair says the NRCS can develop conservation plans with landowners that can safely control these hard-to-deal-with weeds.
A while back, there was a spraying ban on 2,4-D and other chemicals. So that needs to be taken in consideration when you're spraying anywhere. You follow that pest management plan or that guidance. But typically, when we work with landowners with their conservation plan, we address those resource concerns. We address those concerns as far as when to spray, the timing, and the application of the herbicides.
The Chinese tallow tree that you see here can grow as high as 20 to 40 feet. Now imagine having a tree like this along your fence line, and imagine how expensive that would be to get that fixed. That's why it's important to spray trees like this with a herbicide. But before you do, make sure you check with your local NRCS agent to make sure that you have the right product for the right weed.
Gardner says after 2 major flood events, there are millions of bad bacteria and fungi in the soil. That could mean a long-term problem.
And basically, it takes several years to build the soil quality back up, to get those microbes going back in the soil, to get the plant roots down there to aerate the soil, to bring up the nutrients that are in the soil. So it's a very complex process.
Landowner Patty Vote says controlling these weeds with the help of the NRCS has saved her money.
I figured I spend less than $2,000 feeding my cattle, and my brother spent over $30,000 feeding the cattle, so I think I benefited, in my pasture with my, the way I grazed them on the grass, and I had plenty of grass.
Thanks to some careful planning and a little help from the NRCS. In Plaquemines Parish, I'm A.J. Sabine for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Trusclair says landowners in Plaquemines Parish have brought in goats to control some of the weed problems that have been plaguing cattle producers. For more information about the NRCS and how the agency can help you conserve natural resources on your property, log on to our website, twilatv.org.